Hi, I'm Dr. Sian Cole, health psychologist, and this video is going to be talking about the skill of urge surfing. So we'll have a bit of education around it, but also some practicing as well. So before we get into it, I want to do a little experiment with you. So I want you to hold your breath for as long as you can and record the time. All right, so get your little phones out. Get your timer on and go. Hold your breath for as long as you can. And then as soon as you feel like you need to breathe again, press stop on your timer and record your seconds. Pause the video if you're still holding your breath, otherwise I will continue. So what is urge surfing? Well, actually, it is a number of techniques that we teach people so they can manage their behaviours that are influenced by urges. So historically, it's been used for a lot of addiction behaviours like alcohol and drug misuse, binge eating, gambling or overspending, smoking, sexual behaviours, and self-harm. So it was developed in the context of substance dependence, but we frequently use it in acceptance and commitment therapy because there is a number of shared principles that we use, such as acceptance and awareness. And we actually know that it can be used for actually any urge, not just addiction behaviours. So a lot of our motivational issues can be really helped with urge surfing. So things like urging to stay in bed all day or not go to work, to quit a job or a course, avoid challenging tasks, the urge to yell at someone, or road rage. So it can be used with a lot of those urges. So let's define what an urge actually is. So if any of you have watched my emotions video, you're aware that emotions prime your body ready for action. So every emotion gives you an impulse to act in a certain way. So you can think of fear or anger. So we call the impulse the urge. So in anger, we may feel the urge to shout. In sadness, the urge to lie down and cry or have someone cuddle us. And in fear, the urge to run away and hide. What do urges feel like? You may not even be aware of it, but your urges actually affect certain parts of your body far more than others. It all depends on what part of your body is preparing for action. So if you pay attention to your body, you can feel these preparations taking place. So I've got an exercise to help show that. So urge surfing, which is the skill we're talking about today, is learning how to treat our urges like waves and ride them. So there's always some problems in learning a new skill. People may be a bit skeptical about it actually working. People might think that their experience is a lot worse than others and they just cannot change their behaviour, or their urges are just too horrible to endure. Another issue is not practicing. A lot of these skills that I talk about do take practice, and the more you practice, the better you get at it. And if people are using urge surfing as a control or avoidance strategy, because that is not what it is. So there are a number of techniques used to do urge surfing, as I mentioned before. So there's an aspect of being accepting and having willingness to sit with discomfort, choosing to act towards our values, and being mindful. So being in the present and letting go of unhelpful thoughts. We can teach urge surfing in a session, but as I said before, it does require practice. So, what is it not? It is not a control or avoidance strategy, and it's not about willpower. And I think that's really important because I think a lot of people think that dealing with like addiction behaviors or motivation problems, it is about willpower, but it's not. It's about being able to sit with discomfort and choose your behaviors. So we are not trying to fight, resist, give in, or wrestle with our urges either. So the first step is to know that all urges are normal. It's a natural biological process, a reaction from our emotions. They are generally uncomfortable, particularly if they're coming from our unpleasant emotions. But the reason that we are wanting to learn urge surfing is because there is a cost associated with giving in to the urge. One thing we also know is actually giving into our urges doesn't make the urge go away, and at times can actually make them more frequent and more intense. The urge can go against our values and actually work against us as well. So I've got a little example there. We might be feeling sad, feeling shame, having thoughts about being out of control or being a failure. The urge to deal with this sadness or shame is to binge eat chocolate, which then actually comes at a cost, such as health and well-being, and actually increases the feelings of guilt, which then sadness and shame, those feelings go around. So you can see how it becomes a cycle, which is why a lot of people want to get some assistance in dealing with these urges. Another thing that we need to do when dealing with urge surfing is help identify some of the triggers that lead to engaging in urges. So, for example, if I'm working with somebody who wants to quit smoking, they normally can come up with a big list of many triggering situations encourage their urge to smoke, such as having a coffee, feeling stress, being stuck in traffic in the car, being around other people who smoke. A lot of those kind of habits create these kind of urges as well. So you have a think about what are some of the high risk urge situations for yourself. The next step is to understand our own urges. And we can do this by creating a detailed description of how these urges feel. Tuning into our urges can be a really important skill. Sometimes our urges are very kind of vague sensations. So the more we can be aware of them, the easier it is to actually help to deal with them. Any of the associated thoughts and images that kind of come along with engaging in that action as well. So you might be noticing that you're feeling sad, having the urge to go and eat chocolate. So you might be thinking about the cupboard. And then you might notice that your shoulders are moving forward, your thigh muscles are tensing to help you stand up from the chair. Those are some of the urges and sensations that you will notice. I thought we'll do a little exercise. This is a video to watch, and I want you to notice the urge to eat, where it is in your body as you watch this video. So just noticing your body feeling hungry. Just like if it feels tense, like that, or hand. So hopefully you've got a bit of an idea now. So you can describe the urge in many terms as possible. Maybe a tingling sensation. It might be a pressure, all sorts of things. So use as many descriptive words as you can to notice that urge. And also notice that it does grow in intensity, but it also slowly goes away. And this is where the urge surfing comes in, right? So at first the urge comes into your awareness and then it starts to rise. However, when we make room for our urges, we notice that they will crest, but it doesn't go on forever. And actually, the urge will dissipate with time by making room for it, and eventually it will leave our awareness. So this is surfing the urge. So observe in your body where you feel the urge the most. Acknowledge it. I'm having the urge to drive to McDonald's. I'm having the urge to have a cigarette, so on. And just watch it rise and watch it fall. You don't need to try and suppress it or get rid of it. Just breathe into it and make room for it. Your mind might start its judging and it's criticizing you, telling you all sorts of unhelpful stories such as you can't handle it, this urge is too hard, it will just go on and get more intense and more intense forever. So we'll notice that some urges will rise, but they can also fall pretty rapidly, and some might linger a little while. So it's again just making awareness of these urges. Another thing that you might find helpful is to score the urge on a scale of 1 to 10. For example, I'm having the urge to smoke and it's a 7. So no matter how huge the urge gets, you always do have room for it. It will eventually crest and then it will subside. So observe it, breathe into it, and allow it. So as you notice, there's a bit of dealing with unhelpful thoughts. A lot of times people will be very successful with their urge surfing, and they may notice some changes in duration, frequency, and intensity of these urges. However, sometimes there might be a little bit of an increase along these dimensions. And if that happens, you might start to question if urge surfing is actually really working. But just notice that those are thoughts too, and we can deal with these thoughts so as to not relapse into those behaviours that we were trying to change. So just remind yourself why you've made this decision to change this behaviour, to think about the benefits to you for not giving into this urge, to remember that you have been successful in surfing this urge and you can do it again, and it might even get less difficult, and it should get less difficult with time, and that really urges only get stronger when we actually give into them. So let's do an exercise. Let's do a bit of our own urge surfing. And what we're going to do is we're going to be willingly out of breath. So what we're going to do is we're going to be holding our breath, just like I got you to do at the start. But this time, I want you to approach this exercise like you're a gentle, friendly scientist. So that is, in this experiment, you're going to choose to learn about yourself and cultivate a sense of courage and gentleness with yourself and curiosity. So I want you to notice and describe the urge without acting on it. So as the urge to breathe gets stronger, I want you to notice where in your body you feel it. Notice what the urge is like. Notice if it comes and goes, maybe even the shape or colour if it has a colour. And see if the urge actually changes or not. Notice that you can have the urge to breathe and not act on it. The next step is we're going to try and notice your willingness to have this experience. So think of it as an experiment that you are choosing to do with willingness. Notice your thoughts. Are they the same thoughts going around and around, or are different ones coming in? And choosing to let them go. There's no need to do what they say. And be careful for those sneaky thoughts that might quickly lead you to breathe before you even decide to actually do that. And notice if there's any other emotions when you're doing this exercise, apart from the urge to breathe, but if there's anything else there as well. Survey your whole body, notice the sensations other than the urge to breathe, and stay with your commitment to hold your breath as long as you can. And as the urge to breathe gets stronger, make room for this experience. All right, so we'll get the timer out again. And I'm going to leave this up to help remind you. So hold your breath and press the timer. Just remember that you're being a scientist as you're holding your breath, a friendly scientist. Notice and describe the urge, but without acting on it. Yes, it will get more intense, but see how willing you are to hold on just a little bit longer. And notice any of your thoughts that are urging you to breathe. And just see if you can notice that urge and break it down into smaller sensations and stay with the commitment to hold your breath for as long as you can. Surveying your body, noticing the sensations and any other emotions that might be coming in, and being aware of any of those sneaky thoughts. So, how did you go? What did you notice? Did you hold your breath for a bit longer by being able to urge surf? Obviously, you do eventually need to breathe, so it's not the same urge with some of the other behaviours that you want to change. But just have a think of these questions. Did you notice that your mind got a bit sneaky at times, try to persuade you to breathe before you actually really needed to? So it's a really good exercise to just show you that even when we're feeling really uncomfortable, we actually still can make room for that discomfort. So my take-home message is you do not have to act on your urges. So thanks for watching, and I wish you all the luck with practicing this new skill.